The day I built my chicken coop was the day my quiet life turned into a war zone. I had always wanted to live off the land, a small farm, a few chickens, a peaceful life. So when I bought my 1.5-acre property in Willow Ridge, a quiet suburban neighborhood with loose HOA rules, I thought I had found paradise. That was until Karen showed up. Karen Langston, HOA president, dictator in a pantsuit, and self-declared enforcer of neighborhood standards. I was just finishing the last section of my chicken coop when I heard a voice that made my stomach turn. "Excuse me, what is this?" I turned around. Karen stood at the edge of my property, arms crossed, nose scrunched up like she had just smelled a dead raccoon. "It's a chicken coop," I said flatly. Karen gasped as if I had told her I was building a nuclear reactor. "Absolutely not. This is a prestigious community. We can't have barnyard animals." I wiped the sweat from my forehead and sighed. HOA rules don't say anything about chickens. Karen's eye twitched. "It doesn't matter. I'll have the board review this immediately." She stormed off, already pulling out her phone. I had a bad feeling about this. The next morning, an official violation notice was taped to my front door. Violation: unauthorized animal housing. Immediate removal required within 7 days or face daily fines. I laughed. They were bluffing. The HOA had no authority to ban chickens. It wasn't in the bylaws. But Karen didn't care about rules. She cared about power. That evening, I got a second visit. This time, Karen had backup. HOA board members Todd and Lisa, two of her loyal cronies. "You have 1 week to remove that monstrosity," Karen sneered. "Or we start fining you $250 a day." I crossed my arms. "Show me where it says I can't have chickens." Karen's smug smile faltered. Todd cleared his throat. "We're in the process of updating the rules." I smirked. "Then I'm in the process of ignoring you." Karen's face turned red. "You'll regret this." I had no idea how right she was. That night, something felt off. At 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my chicken squawking loudly. I grabbed a flashlight and rushed outside. The coop door was wide open. Feathers were everywhere. My chickens were scattered, running in panic. Someone had intentionally broken into my coop. My stomach dropped. I ran to check my security cameras. But the power to my system had been cut. Karen, it had to be. This was personal. And if they wanted war, they had no idea what was coming next. The next day, the HOA sent out an emergency bylaw update to the entire neighborhood. The new rule? No livestock, poultry, or farm-related structures allowed on any residential property. Karen had rushed through an illegal vote, without a meeting, without discussion, and without a legal basis. Ben, my best friend, and the only sane board member, called me. "Dude, Karen faked the votes." He sent me a screenshot of the vote tally. Votes to ban chickens: 5. Votes against: 0. There were 7 board members. 2 votes were missing. Karen had literally erased the votes of 2 members who opposed her. That was fraud. It was time to hit back. Karen's new rule banned chicken coops. But it didn't ban chickens inside the house. I built a mini indoor coop in my garage. When Karen came by for her inspection, she nearly exploded. "Where are the chickens?" she screeched. I smiled. "Inside." Her face twisted in rage. "That's disgusting." I shrugged. "Not against the rules." She stomped away. This isn't over. But she had no idea what I was planning next. That night, I sat in my garage, surrounded by my chickens and a box of HOA violation notices. I was sick of this. And then, I had an idea. I pulled up Google Maps and zoomed in on the HOA office. And that's when I saw it. A vacant lot, directly across from their office. I checked the county records. It was privately owned and for sale. A slow grin spread across my face. What if I bought that land and put up a billboard? A massive billboard, with Karen's face on it. And a big, bold message. HOA corruption exposed. Willow Ridge's biggest scandal. Game on. I couldn't sleep that night. The moment I found out the vacant lot across from the HOA office was for sale, my mind was racing. I checked the price. $12,000. It wasn't cheap, but after dealing with Karen's nonstop harassment, it was worth every penny. The next morning, I called my real estate buddy, James. "I need you to help me buy some land." James was confused at first, but when I explained why, he burst out laughing. "You're seriously going to put a billboard calling out the HOA? You're damn right I am." By the end of the week, the lot was mine. I legally owned the land right across from the HOA headquarters, and I was about to use it to ruin Karen's entire existence. I sat down with graphic designer, a guy named Rick, who was also an HOA victim in another town. When I told him my plan, he nearly fell out of his chair laughing. "Oh, I'm making this billboard unforgettable." The design? A huge picture of Karen's angry face, screenshotted from a recorded HOA meeting where she was screaming about my chickens. Big, bold letters. "HOA fraud alert. Willow Ridge HOA caught lying, stealing, and abusing power." A link to a website I created, exposing all of Karen's corrupt actions, fake fines, and illegal rule changes. It was perfect. I sent it to the printing company. And 1 week later, the massive billboard was installed. The morning after the billboard went up, all hell broke loose. At 8 a.m. sharp, I got a call from Ben, my HOA insider. He was wheezing with laughter. "Dude, Karen just saw the billboard. She's having a full-blown meltdown." I rushed to the HOA office. There she was, Karen standing outside, screaming at a construction worker. Her face was redder than a fire hydrant. "Take it down. Take it down right now." The worker shrugged. "Sorry, lady. It's on private property." Karen turned and saw me watching from across the street, her face twisted with rage. I'm calling the police." I just grinned. "For what?" "Owning land." Karen stormed off, pulling out her phone. This was just the beginning. Karen didn't waste time. By the next day, I received a cease and desist letter from the HOA's lawyer, claiming my billboard was defamatory and harassment. I laughed. Everything on the billboard was true. It was on my property. And legally, they couldn't do a damn thing. But Karen was so obsessed with power that she filed a lawsuit anyway. Big mistake. In court, my lawyer shredded them. I had proof of Karen's fake fines and illegal rule changes. Ben testified that Karen rigged HOA votes. And when the judge asked Karen for proof that my billboard was false, she had nothing. Case dismissed. Karen had just humiliated herself in court, but she still wouldn't stop. With the lawsuit blowing up in her face, Karen tried one last dirty trick. One night, I heard a loud bang outside. I ran out and saw HOA board member Todd with a spray can trying to vandalize my billboard. I turned on my floodlights. Todd froze like a deer in headlights. I pulled out my phone. Smile for the camera, Todd. His face went pale. He bolted down the street. But the next morning, I sent the security footage to the police. Todd was arrested for trespassing and vandalism. And Karen? She was officially done. After the failed lawsuit, Todd's arrest, and the billboard humiliating the HOA, the entire neighborhood turned against Karen. At the next emergency HOA meeting, over 100 homeowners showed up, many of whom never attended before, because they thought the HOA was just a minor inconvenience. But now, they were furious. "We never voted for these stupid rules," one neighbor shouted. "Why are we paying fines for nothing?" Another yelled. Karen, visibly sweating, tried to regain control. "Please, this meeting is for board members only." But the crowd wasn't having it. Ben, the only sane board member, stood up. "Enough. We all know Karen has been making up rules and using HOA money for her own interests." He pulled up a massive folder of evidence. Fake HOA violations. Emails proving Karen edited vote results. HOA funds mysteriously disappearing. Karen snatched the papers and threw them on the ground. "This is a lie. You're all ungrateful." Lisa, one of Karen's remaining allies, suddenly stood up. "Karen, is this true?" Karen turned on her instantly. "Of course not. Are you turning against me too?" Lisa hesitated, then grabbed her purse. "I quit." Karen's face turned ghost white. Ben looked around at the crowd. "Who here votes to dissolve the HOA?" 100 plus hands went up. Karen screamed in rage. But it was over. A majority vote immediately disbanded the HOA. The reign of Karen was finished. The next morning, Karen went nuclear. She tried to call the city government and file complaint against every homeowner. She even tried to report my chickens again. But this time, the city officials laughed her out of the office. With no HOA authority, Karen was just another angry neighbor with zero power. That afternoon, I was in my backyard feeding my chickens when I saw a moving truck pull up to Karen's house. Then I saw her storming out with boxes, red-faced and furious. She was moving out. Her house had already been listed for sale. I walked up to her. "Need help packing?" Karen glared at me. "You think this is funny? You ruined this community." I just smiled. "No, Karen, I saved it." She screamed, threw a box into her car, and sped off. Karen was gone for good. With Karen gone, the HOA completely dissolved. People started painting their houses fun colors. Kids played basketball in the street again. I hosted a massive barbecue in my backyard, inviting the whole neighborhood. And best of all, I kept the billboard up for one more month. The final message: HOA gone, neighborhood free, chickens welcome. And just for fun, I added a cartoon of Karen running away with suitcases. It was the perfect ending. With no HOA harassing everyone, life completely changed. I helped my neighbors start a community garden. We turned an empty lot into a small dog park. The HOA's old funds were returned to homeowners. Thousands of dollars were funded. And yes, I even expanded my chicken farm. People loved it. Every morning, I had neighbors stopping by to buy fresh eggs. One day, Ben walked up to me and grinned. "Never thought I'd say this, but you actually made this neighborhood better." I laughed. All it took was some chickens and a billboard. A year later, I heard a hilarious rumor. Apparently, Karen had moved to a different neighborhood and tried to join their HOA. But before she could take control, someone sent the entire HOA board a link to my website, the one exposing all of Karen's corruption. She was blacklisted from ever being on an HOA board again. I couldn't stop laughing. Justice was truly served. Years later, my billboard became famous. People still talked about how I single-handedly destroyed an HOA with chickens and a revenge sign. Even the local news covered it. And to this day, when people ask me how I beat the HOA, I just smile and say, sometimes all it takes is a little bit of land and a really big sign.